Meanwhile, there's something else that's brewing in these troubled waters, a fight over fish. And it's been going on for years now. The fishermen issue has become a flashpoint in India-Sri Lanka relations, a small one, but a flashpoint nonetheless. And as the fishing communities on both sides battle it out, a ceasefire is nowhere on the horizon.
The fishing communities of Sri Lanka and India were once allies, but they are now enemies. The main battlefield is the Pork Bay, a narrow strip of water that separates the state of Tamil Nadu in India from northern Sri Lanka. It is a rich fishing ground and hence a highly contested site. According to some estimates, it contributed to over a third of the total catch of Sri Lanka when normalcy prevailed. There have been spells of calm and heightened tension. Overall, it is a fish war between the two countries that has gone on for years. In the 1960s, India was grappling with a financial crisis, and seafood exports was one of the main ways out. Enter trawlers. They were used to drop nets for harvesting fish and shrimps. Over time, there were thousands of trawlers being used by Indian fishermen, one of their favorite weapons in the hunt for fish. In sharp contrast, Sri Lanka was staring at a violent civil war, and fishermen were caught in the crosshairs. To contain Tamil rebels during the war, the Sri Lankan Navy had heightened security and fishing activities were banned. This ban served as an opportunity for Indian fishermen. This went on till the 1990s and the 2000s. But with the end of the civil war, the Sri Lankan fishermen were clearly lagging behind, with their weaker boats up against the experienced Indian trawlers. As a result, post the war, the Sri Lankan Navy started focusing on cracking down on Indian fishermen in Sri Lankan waters. The Navy started arresting Indian fishermen, their boats were impounded, and there was no looking back. The Sri Lankan Navy continues to regularly patrol the area, and as the fish wars continue, tensions continue to simmer, with a ceasefire nowhere.
So what's our take on this US-Lanka defense deal? Sri Lanka is a sovereign country. Who Lanka wants to engage with is Lanka's decision to make. But the timing of this agreement rings an alarm bell. After the civil war ended in 2009, Sri Lanka was isolated on the international scene. Several countries went against it on international forums. The economy suffered due to political unrest and civil unrest. China sensed a strategic opportunity. It invested heavily in Sri Lanka. The whole episode of the Hambantota port is well documented. But it was not only the infrastructure projects. China sided with Sri Lanka on various cases on war crimes at international courts. But now China must realize that there is a rival in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is struggling to repay interest on Chinese debt. Amid the trade war between America and China, Lanka has chosen to side with America. It may reap economic benefits in the short term, but in the medium term, there could be problems for Sri Lanka. Most Asian countries avoid the simultaneous presence of the US and China in their home soil. But Sri Lanka believes it can use the situation to its advantage. If Sri Lanka was thinking that by siding with the Americans, it can find an unconditional investor, then it could also be proved wrong. The US will want to polarize the political establishment in Colombo towards itself, the same political establishment that sided with China all this while. The power struggle for influence is underway in Sri Lanka, and Colombo must realize one thing very, very clearly, that if this deal leads to a violation of their sovereignty, then Sri Lanka has only itself to blame.